Minnesota Vikings selects Alexander Mattison.
He is the pride of San Bernardino, Minnesota Vikings running back Alexander Mattison, our guest today. How are you?
Doing great. I'm doing great. I'm blessed and highly favored and just living out my dreams.
You and I met 4 years ago. You were the winner of the ACSA Every Student Succeeding scholarship back in 2016. Alexander, for the people watching this who don't know your story, walk us through some of the challenges you faced growing up.
Grew up in San Bernardino, Southern California, where, the main focus, I guess you would say, of a story from San Bernardino was something negative. Was always something that had to do with, drugs, violence, murder rates, anything from that, poverty. And, it rang true throughout the city. I mean, there's a lot that was going on in the city that was positive, but a lot of the negative overcasted all of that. And so, grew up through a lot of those struggles firsthand, of some of the situations where, I was homeless a couple different times growing up. But my parents and my family, we all fought through that, pushed through that, and came out on the other side of it.
I was going to say, we flew down to San Bernardino to tell your story in 2016. At that point, you had committed to Boise State. If I told you back then, Alexander, that you'd be playing on Sundays in the NFL, what would you have said?
I mean, it was always a dream of mine. It was always something that I had kind of set my mind on accomplishing, but I never really thought about it being true. I thought it being something that was actually attainable. And I think part of that was just, my background was just, you don't make it out of San Bernardino. So I knew I had to do whatever it took to get out of there and make it out of there. And Boise State was that opportunity for me. And I don't think I ever really realized I had a chance until the end of my junior year, when my coaches are talking to me about like insurance policies for coming back my senior year, and all the agents reaching out, and it never really clicked to me until then.
Look, you graduated from San Bernardino with a 4.7 GPA, which is just absurd, not to mention the fact you were in a dual immersion program, and your Spanish was pretty good when we talked. How is it now?
It's still pretty good. I try and keep up a little bit with some of my old friends from high school. It's not much of a use for it as much as when I was in school and when I was in Southern California, where it's kind of really, really diverse down there, and you get to use it a lot more at the store and stuff like that.
On that note, you made a very conscious effort to devote yourself to education when you easily could have just said, I'm going to focus on football. Why was that?
I knew for me, football was a big thing for me. But my parents taught us that education was key, especially being a young African-American man in California. Just during those times at San Bernardino, we just needed to fall back on something that could, put us above, that status quo where this is the way that has to be. This is the norm for the city. This is a norm for a kid like you. It was always being different, always being outside of that. And on top of that, I just knew football was not going to be my only way out. I knew I had to get out, whether it was academically or through school, whatever I was going to do, I was going to be successful somehow.
There's so much that's unknown about COVID-19, and when we will actually see some type of normalcy. As you're training for the upcoming season, Alexander, what's your level of optimism that the NFL returns in the fall?
Oh, man. I got double fingers crossed.
You and me both, man.
I'm praying this goes away faster than a lot of people think. I just hope we get back out there soon. We're doing virtual meetings and things like that, but it's just not the same from taking a actual handoff and being actually in that offense and actually going through the motions and things like that. So I hope as soon as possible that we can get back out there.
Alexander, I want to close with this. There are a lot of students, a lot of families who are struggling right now who might not know where their next meal is coming from or if they're going to have a place to sleep. As a young man who's lived that reality, what's your message to them?
You got to think of life as a way of not only just trying to survive, but a way of striving to be better, striving to for something and for growth and and everything that you could ask for. You have to strive for that. So it may be hard now, and it was hard for me a lot of the times. It was hard growing up, and it may be hard at the present moment, but just know there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, look, man, the sky's the limit for you. We appreciate you doing this. Be well. We'll catch up more soon.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.